Afternoon. All right, Madam Chair.
It does sound official, doesn't it? Do I get to hit this? I want to boom. I love it. Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and start the Paratransit Coordinated Committee. We will begin with introductions. I will begin with folks in the room, and then we will move to those joining us via Zoom. Stephen, do you want to start?
Okay. I'm Stephen Schmitz with Sonoma County Transit.
They're on.
That one?
Yes.
All right. Mohammed Ali from V Transportation and Turner's City Bus. Thank you.
Kathleen Cortez, Human Services, Adult and Aging. Steph Britt, SCTA, RCPA.
Right.
No, it's okay.
Get the chair.
That's all right. Everybody knows me. Maria RC, Petaluma Transit.
Dana Trey, SCTA, RCPA.
Great. And now we'll move to Zoom, which I cannot see. I'm realizing I need a better prescription. So
We can start with Ross.
yeah, there we go. What do you think?
Ross Blundell, SCTA, RCPA.
Okay.
Drennan. Hi, I'm Drennan Shelton from Metropolitan Transportation Commission.
Tobias.
Yes, my name is Tobias Weir. I'm from the State Council on Developmental Disabilities from the North Bay office.
Gaffney. That is hard to
Yeah, Nico V Transit.
And then Chris Barney.
Hi, everyone. Chris Barney, SCTA, RCPA.
And the last one we have is Linda's iPhone.
Hi, can you hear me? I apologize. I'm on my iPhone, as you can tell, and I can't see where to change my name. My name is Linda Chaffin. I'm an advisor to the board for the Cloverdale Senior Multipurpose Center.
Great. Welcome. Thank you. We have everybody. Wonderful. Now it's our opportunity for public comment. These are items that are not on the regular agenda in person or via Zoom.
Yeah, I just had a question. Can I raise my hand or how do I start?
You're good, Tobias.
Okay. I had a community member come up to me and was wondering if there was opportunity for her. She has a power soccer team, so power wheelchair soccer team. And they meet near the YMCA and in Santa Rosa, but they have folks from all over the county, from Sonoma and Marin, and they're having a lot of difficulties with transportation because I believe some of the wheelchairs are non-traditional, maybe don't fit in the traditional wheelchair accessible vehicles. And she wants to know if she can get some resources from the transportation authorities in these local areas to be able to make this happen a little bit easier for them. And so I just wanted to put that out there and get a contact for us so I can get her hooked up to maybe talking to somebody about this.
All right. Is there a way we can get maybe Tobias's contact information, then we can reach out if we have some resources for him? I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I know we can.
And I didn't either. That's why I brought it to the committee.
This is the place for it.
Yes. Should I put my information in the chat?
I have Tobias's information, so if people send something to me, I can forward it on to him. Tobias, it's Drew here. And so
yeah,
however you want to do that, or Tobias, you're welcome to contact me and I can be that conduit of information.
Perfect. Thank you, Drew. We might need more clarification about the size of the scooters. That would probably be what we'll end up needing before we can give a recommendation.
Okay.
Great.
So I should send my information to whom? To Drew?
To Drew.
Okay, great. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobias.
Thank you, all.
Any other public comment, either on Zoom or in the room? All right. Seeing none, we can move to the approval of meeting notes from May 21st, 2024. If you have any additions, corrections, this would be the time. Go ahead, Kathleen.
In paragraph 2, the TNC WAVE, it's actually an acronym, WAV, for wheelchair accessible vehicle.
Okay.
It's the last sentence there.
All right. Drew has that. Any other additions or changes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mohammed, second. And those are approved. All right, that takes us to item number 4. We're excited to have Drennan from MTC. Always excited to see you, Drennan. A wealth of knowledge and information. She's going to be presenting on the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. Go ahead, Drennan, take it away.
Thank you. Drew, do you have the slides that you could share? I tried sharing, but it won't let me.
Ooh, I do, but I just switched it to where you can share.
Oh, oops, I should have been maybe better prepared then. Hold on, I'm gonna have to download it again.
I'll resume.
Let's see, where can I go?
Is it this one?
Let me see. Where'd you get it?
That looks promising.
Keep going.
In the packet.
There.
There we go. Yeah.
Do you see them? I don't see them.
Drew has them.
I got it.
Okay, and
There.
everyone online. Oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, look at this. Thank you.
We've got you. Well,
I
Drew,
should have been way better prepared then. Sorry. Yes, so this plan, let's not call it the long name. Let's call it the coordinated plan, because we'll be here all day if I have to say coordinated public transit human services transportation plan each time I want to say it. So I want to give you an update on what is going on with the coordinated plan, and give you sort of a high level summary of the recommendations that are in it, and then get your feedback. Next slide, please. There we go. So giving you a little bit of background, the coordinated plan is a federal document. We're required to update it every 4 years. It focuses in on older adults, people with disabilities, low-income populations. And we have it out for public comment right now. And we're going to be wrapping up public comment on August 7th. The way this plan is used is it's really the blueprint for planning and coordinating transportation across the region. And different agencies use it for different things. They use it to set priorities and coordination strategies with MTC, transit agencies, county transportation authorities, cities, counties, nonprofits, everyone that focuses on these populations. And really the recommendations and data are used for a lot of local planning efforts, determining those funding priorities. We help contribute to advocacy efforts, and really importantly, people use this plan for their grant applications. Next slide. So the federal guidance on updating a coordinated plan is that it must be locally developed through a process that includes participation by the target populations, so older adults, people with disabilities, and then representatives from public, private, nonprofit transportation, and human services transportation providers. So really, participation is key for this plan update. We have specific meetings with individuals, groups, and organizations, but we also have other outreach events and meetings that we use for input and to gather feedback for what goes into this plan. The plan includes a demographic information summary, an inventory of regional transportation resources. It gives you an outreach and transportation gap summary. And then most importantly, we have those recommendations for MTC and our partner agencies to improve mobility. Next slide, please. So I have some findings here I thought were important to call out. Of the 11% of disabled people in the region, half report experiencing ambulatory difficulties. Adults with disabilities use transit for a higher share of their trips than people without disabilities. So it's really important that our transit infrastructure is accessible and continues to be accessible. The biggest issue for disabled transit users is a lack of reliable transportation, and that's cited for both fixed route and paratransit. And then Marin, Sonoma, and Napa are three of our four least populated counties, but have the highest proportion of older adults. Older adults across the region report a lack of information and fear as the reasons why they don't use transit. Information and referral services plus travel training for older adults is super important because of those safety issues and the lack of information on how to use transit. Another thing to consider, though, is, when we think about our older adults, we need to also consider the workers, often low-wage workers who have to travel across these counties to serve older adults as their aging in place continues to increase. And then keeping with other trends that we're seeing in the region, all populations report a desire for greater access to leisure activities. People want to use the transportation network for more than just, the work, school, medical appointments type trips. And then a couple other things I think are really important to share. Mobility management, which I think you're all familiar with, but it's that one-stop shop approach to providing mobility options to transportation disadvantaged population, does not work unless we have enthusiastic support from our transit agencies. The most successful models of mobility management are where transit agencies either play a role in mobility management functions or where transit agencies fully coordinate with and endorse the activities of the local mobility manager in their area. Another finding I think is very important to know is that the importance of expanding our accessible infrastructure around bus stops is critical at this point. Inaccessible bus stops are one of the most often cited reasons that disabled and older people don't use fixed route. Transit infrastructure is a very complicated issue because transit agencies often don't control or own the bus stops, but expanding our accessibility around that network of buses is really an impactful way to expand accessibility. Okay, and so then the last thing here I have is funding remains the single largest barrier we have to making even modest improvements in these areas. We're pretty much making the same recommendations since the first time we did the coordinated plan back in 2007. There's been little improvement. It's really frustrating at times to keep talking about this. But beyond what the public transit system puts into their system, there's only one dedicated funding source that targets disabled people and older adults, and that's the federal 5310 program. It's a small program. It's never been enough to address mobility gaps in our system. And so as our needs continue to increase, we're just not keeping up. Without a stable and appropriate funding source, we're just having a really difficult time addressing gaps and making improvements. Next slide, please. Here's where I'll start to give you that high-level summary of the 8 draft recommendations. So the first one, talked about this, designating a mobility manager in each county. It continues to be our first recommendation. I like to think of mobility management as that firm foundation to a strong house, and we need one entity in each county dedicated to delivering and improving coordinated countywide services. Without this, we're not going to make inroads. It's going to continue to be a siloed approach. I'm happy that we're going to be able to work on this more comprehensively towards the end of this year and into next year under the Transformation Action Plan at MTC, though. So stay tuned for more on that. Number 2 is to identify sustainable funding sources for services and mobility management. Mentioned this earlier, 5310 does not go far enough, and it doesn't help us develop those new needed services. And where mobility management exists now, it's either funded through 5310, the One Bay Area Grant Program, we call it OBAG, or local funds. And also under this action, we have something that I just heard a mention of from Kathleen, is that I'm recommending that MTC opt into administering the TNC Access for All program. It's the program that takes 10% of every Uber and Lyft ride and pools those funds on a county level where the trip originates. And those funds can be used to provide wheelchair accessible on-demand services. So we're recommending that MTC opt in to being the fund administrator for the counties who don't have one. Right now in our region, only Contra Costa, San Francisco, and Solano are looking to administer their own funds. And Sonoma and the rest of the counties need to wait until the California Public Utilities Commission appoints an administrator. So hopefully we can get this approved and start moving those funds out to you all. Number 3 is to improve transportation access to healthcare. We all know the cost of providing healthcare trips is a huge burden to our transit agencies. And one thing that we could do to provide relief here is to support legislation that would make it easier for agencies to recoup Medi-Cal funds for trips on paratransit. Those recovered funds can be reinvested into the paratransit program and can be used to expand services. And then the recommendation also includes having MTC assist transit agencies in setting up that cost recovery program. Next slide, please. So this next one is to support paratransit improvements through the Transformation Action Plan at MTC and with our transit agencies. We have a number of initiatives aimed at this one. It includes the one-seat ride pilot programs on paratransit, getting Clipper on paratransit, standardizing practices for determining paratransit eligibility. And then the big one is Action 24, paratransit reform. We'll be tackling that next calendar year. So our biggest challenge here is funding. No surprise there. We'll be looking for new investment or new fund sources to see what we can do to make any substantive improvements like lowering paratransit fares, expanding hours and areas of service, better tools for our transit agencies to improve, scheduling, and then making improvements to the regional eligibility database that helps coordinate paratransit for everyone. Number 5 is to support accessibility of shared and future mobility. So in all of the policies and programs related to shared and future mobility, we all need to prioritize accessibility. It doesn't happen all of the time. Planners, program administrators, and you, our advisors, need to be continually cognizant of this and look for ways to incorporate accessibility into new programs. There's always something to do on accessibility. It can't be an afterthought when we're developing these new innovative services. Number 6 is to identify and fill those equity gaps. And I think this is something that MTC has been particularly successful at with a number of our programs. I think MTC should continue the leadership and looking to where we can incorporate equity-based key performance indicators and look for ways to change program income thresholds that would increase access for more low-income populations. Next slide, please. And we've got our last 2 here. 7 is to support infrastructure improvements. We've talked about this. The bus stop improvements would be a hugely impactful way to do this. We also have gotten a call from riders for MTC to create transit accessibility standards that would go beyond the floor set by the ADA. So that's something that's going to need to be looked at. And then the last one here is a recommendation to support emergency preparedness efforts. So before COVID, there was a major push in our region to connect transit agencies and paratransit programs with their county emergency preparedness efforts. And this was done through the Bay Area Urban Areas Security Initiative, Bay Area UASI. Maybe some of you have heard of this. This work really paid off in a lot of counties where there was a disconnect before. Under COVID, paratransit basically stopped. You all know this. And we were able to pair these programs up through county efforts and start sort of a reverse delivery for food in home to people who would normally leave their home to go out and get food, but who needed to stay for COVID. And then you all, this is not news to you, especially in your county. There's so many different disaster threats. And we see the highest risk for death and injury is always older populations and disabled people. So we would recommend going further than just standard preparedness efforts by extending disaster service worker credentials to paratransit drivers who really should be seen as essential during a time of disaster. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. So I'll wrap up here. I mentioned that the plan now is out for public comment, wrapping up August 7th. I'll take it to the MTC Planning Committee. I'm doing a little roadshow at some of the PCCs and some other places. Hopefully it'll get adopted by the end of October. And then I really would like to hear from you. There's a couple of different ways you can comment. You can do it right here, right now. I'll take down your thoughts. It'll be turned into an official comment. You can send me an email with a more formal thought if you want. And then you can even go on the MTC coordinated plan webpage, and there's like a comment box that you can fill out and send it in to me. And that's all the slides for now. I really look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Drennan. I know this was a lot of work and we're only seeing the high level portions of this. So we appreciate you and the team that's been working on this. I think maybe it might be good to start with, if anybody does have comments they want to officially submit, we can also go into some discussion and questions. Are there
and
any
informal is okay too. If you say, I don't want this to be a formal one, I won't.
All right. So yeah. We'll make sure we say that's a comment. Make sure to add that. When we say a comment, maybe that'll be easier. So we'll open it up for any questions or comments. Raise your hand if you're on Zoom or in the room. Okay, Kathleen, please.
Thank you, Drennan. I haven't reviewed the whole entire plan. It's quite lengthy, but I just wanted to let you know that Adult and Aging has a grant right now from California Department of Aging. It's called a Local Disability and Access Plan, Aging and Disability. So we are really focusing on equity priority areas and equity priority groups. Your low income, Native American, Spanish speaking, and Black and African American are our major groups that we have been studying. And recently we did 4 focus groups. 2 were non-English speakers. 1 was a Spanish group. The second was Cambodian. And then we had a group of disabled older adults, and then a group of African American older adults. The number 1 issue in all of the groups was transportation. It was especially prominent issue for our non-English speakers. And I don't know if you highlighted in your plan, but language access is a barrier to transportation for non-English speakers. In Sonoma County, I believe Spanish is the only language that we're required to provide. And I don't know if our transportation plans or planning documents that go out for comment are produced in other languages. I would recommend that so you can get that equity input. So that's one comment that I had. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that in the Federal Older Americans Act regulations, they define older adult as age 60 and over. So a lot of your needs assessments that are done by your area agencies on aging, which I believe every county in the Bay Area has one, you'll see a different proportion of older adults defined. And for our needs assessment in Sonoma County, we currently have 28% of the county population age 60 and over. And by the year 2030, it will be 35% of the county over age 60.
Thank you. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thanks for that good presentation, Drennan. Looks like a good plan, a really good plan. One of the recommendations you make is a mobility manager in every county. And I was wondering if you would be also looking at funding related to making that happen. Was that part of the plan to investigate or research how we would fund these mobility managers in every county?
Yeah, it's not part of the recommendation to provide mobility management funding along with the designation. Really what I've focused on doing over the last, 10 years is working with agencies to get to the funding that is currently available. That's why I like to underscore that we don't have dedicated funding for these efforts, mobility management specifically. It would be a great comment to get from the transit agencies and from everyone else to my commission that we need a dedicated source of funding for mobility management. It's one of these things. It's like, it's not exciting. It's infrastructure funding essentially for, providing services that aren't always seen as essential, but we know that they are in providing, information, travel training, that sort of thing. So it'd be a good comment to get from your agency.
Can you just assume this is my comment right now?
Oh, great. I'm going to put it down. Can I attribute it to you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. It makes it quick and easy.
I have a question on that, so I'm going to ask it now, but I have other questions later. There are mobility managers in the Bay Area. How are those roles currently funded? And not to put you on the spot, I don't expect to have it all, but maybe just.
Yeah, through 5310, OBAG, and local funds.
Okay.
A lot of local funds. Can't underestimate that, as John Gaffney shakes his head, because Marin Transit and Golden Gate uses local funds for theirs. So yeah.
Marin Transit does.
Yeah. Well, I'm including you guys because you get the benefit of it. So.
Are there questions on Zoom?
Yeah, this is Yuri. I'll just kind of follow up on the mobility manager topic. So what I guess I get the impression that there's a kind of wide variety of tasks that mobility managers around the region perform. I guess, so what is the gap that is trying to be filled with recommending the mobility manager? Is there something that's not being performed that we want to perform, or is it just kind of, yeah, is there something that's not being done that we're trying to correct?
Yeah, so there's a long history of developing what we mean by mobility management in this region. We've had many years of formal workshops and high-level executive meetings and definition crafting for what it means. But yes, there are three main functions that we want represented in each county at a county level. Information referral services, so providing information on all of the transportation available to disadvantaged populations. And that ranges from, the simple website or pamphlet all the way to, the more comprehensive doing in an application, seeing what you're eligible for, all of these different things. But really, we want to have an entry point for individuals needing to access services, one place where they can get everything comprehensively in their county. Two is travel training, making sure that there is a countywide travel training program available in the county. It doesn't mean that the mobility manager has to do the travel training, but they do need to fully coordinate with those travel training services and making sure that eligibles are effectively referred to travel training. Right now, sometimes it's well, you should go investigate travel training, and people are left with, I don't know what travel training is, and I gotta call someone else, that sort of thing. So bridging those gaps for folks so they can get to travel training services. And then the last one is something you're very familiar with, because we've been talking about it a lot at BAPAC. It's integrated ADA paratransit certification process. So making sure that when someone comes through the eligibility process for paratransit, that they are told about the availability of other services, and making sure that there's a connection to those services. Specifically folding that into the ADA eligibility process is going to make sure that customers are more aware of other services, lessening the burden on paratransit, hopefully. So those are the three main things. Yeah, I can stop.
And so part of the goal there is each agency may be providing those services, but the desire is to have one entry point at a county level.
That's right. That's right.
And Drennan, are you aware of any areas where there's kind of more of a regional approach, like multi-county mobility manager?
I don't know of any. Traditionally in California, we have the Consolidated Transportation Service Agency designation, the CTSAs, and those are done either on a county or a sub-county basis. We've never done any historically since, the 80s, going back to the 80s when, or 79 is when the Social Service Transportation Act was passed. In the Bay Area, we've only ever had county level CTSAs. I personally think that the reason why a county level designation for mobility management or a CTSA makes the most sense is because, like how Kathleen talked about, there's other non-transportation funds that can be used for transportation on a countywide basis that can be brought into the mobility management network. And really that's what a CTSA does, and that's what a mobility manager can do, which is to bring those funds in, consolidate them, and then more effectively serve the transportation disadvantaged populations. All without duplication.
Maria, Petaluma Transit. Mobility management is near and dear to my heart. I think it's, something that is heavily needed in Sonoma. So I'll put my 2 cents in there. I think there's an ability to definitely integrate some of the things we have duplication in efforts. I think it's a wonderful idea to have something. I think it can go beyond the 3 points. And Drennan, I know in BAPAC you spoke about that those 3 points aren't all it can be. It can be more than that role potentially. And in my own experience with speaking to clients, oftentimes when they do speak to us, they don't know what they're looking for. So to ask them what they're looking for is kind of a really tricky proposition, because they don't know what's available and they don't know what they need. And so oftentimes I find when I'm doing eligibility applications that I am saying, oh, there's this service or that service. But again, we have limited resources dedicated to it. So I appreciate the effort to put some light on this. I also think it's a potential to see more clearly the holes in service when you only have one person or one group, kind of seeing all of it and can maybe more succinctly speak to the entire county, versus as it is now, I might get anecdotal, oh, this is what I see happening here. And one of my other partners might see what they're happening. But if we had one person, they could hear a little more easily, I think, identify those holes in service. So I second Stephen's comment about definitely funding for the role, and that it is something that's important. I think it also could potentially free up some of the resources at a transit agency level where we're trying to meet these needs, but maybe not fully meeting them. And rather than trying to do it halfway, maybe use those resources for something else for the transit agency can do. So I'm excited to see what comes of this. I know Solano has done great work in this environment as well. And so I think they can be looked at as a model. I'd be interested in any other models that you would encourage us to examine, maybe as we look at the roles. Other comments or questions? I had one additional one about the bus stop. You know, I definitely think improving bus stop accessibility is huge. I guess I'm wondering if you can go into maybe just a little bit more detail about how that seems like a big process, you know, with so many, like it seems daunting to me. When you begin to kind of examine that, what are some of the steps that the plan is considering adopting or encouraging us to adopt transit agency?
Yeah. So my hope was by now we would be discussing a bus stop inventory for your county. I had a whole plan to do this in the calendar year of 2025, but was told there's not enough time for you to do this, which is true, but I wanted to do it anyway. So the idea is to get just the first thing is a baseline. We need county level or agency level inventories of our bus stops. You would think maybe that exists, but it doesn't in most agencies. They don't have an inventory of their bus stops and what improvements need to be made. Back when the ADA was passed, all public agencies were asked to make what's called an ADA transition plan. And those are just literal databases of either physical improvements or programmatic improvements to make public agencies more accessible to people with disabilities. So those ADA transition plans are supposed to be still in existence. For all of you who work at public agencies, I would ask you to try to find your ADA transition plan, dust it off, look at when the last time it was updated. What we're looking to do is make ADA transition plans a requirement for OBAG funding, One Bay Area Grant Program funding, which your agencies get, the counties get, the cities get. We want to not make it a requirement that you update, just that you find it. Okay. In hopes that you will update it, and then we'll get to work on updating these plans. But it goes back to that inventory. We just need an inventory of what needs to be done, and then we can start to prioritize what stops need, you know, who are they owned by? What kind of improvements do they need? And then the OBAG funds are there, they're available for these improvements.
And would this be on like a county level that you'd want to tackle this, or by agency?
I mean, I don't have a preference. Without someone sort of overseeing a regional bus stop improvement program, which, you know, I would love to do in my spare time. It would be nice to see what agencies can do on their own in the meantime. I think hopefully I'll get some more direction as we roadshow this plan. We'll get some direction from folks, comments based on this, what you all would prefer, what the commission will allow me to do, what they might give money for, that sort of thing. But we'll see. Yeah.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, Sonoma County Transit has over 1,000 bus stops. So we definitely need to prioritize, you know, where we start. And maybe that's shared bus stops within the city limits first, and then major bus stops in the rural areas. But that's a huge project for us. Otherwise, we would have already done it, right?
Yuri?
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo Steven's comment. I mean, I've been working on bus stops since I started in transit, and it's just like I think Steven's right. If there's a way to prioritize high use bus stops, I think the other way to go at it, which may become controversial, is I have there's the requirement from an ADA perspective to address curb ramps, and so but there's nothing around road improvements that addresses bus stops, and so you have a corridor that's ADA from a highway perspective, but that does not include the bus stop. So you have a whole corridor that's basically isolated from ADA access due to if you're not driving, and I think leaning on Caltrans and local jurisdictions to make requirements around if you're going to upgrade a roadway, the bus stop, if you want, depending on how the ADA is read, you need to upgrade the bus stops on the corridor, which just means a 5x10 concrete pad, just means connecting it to the sidewalk. It's, so first in Stevens instance, way out in the counties, there's roadways that are going to take forever, but if you're going to touch, so they're not going to get addressed, but if you're going to upgrade a roadway, that's when you've already mobilized, and it's having remobilizing for individual bus stops can be very difficult. So that may be a very hard lift, but I think strategically, if at a statewide basis, if that could happen, that would be the way to do it.
And if I could just add too, I had said that I'd hoped that we would be rolling out a Sonoma-based accessible bus stop improvement program, but if we can keep this secret in the room, I think Caltrans planning grants are perfect for this sort of thing. You can get almost $750,000 to do one single planning project, and I think we could definitely use $700,000 on something like this pretty easily. You get a consultant, you get some interns, you start making an inventory. So if we can all keep working on this, then we'll be set to I think apply for a grant in 2025.
We have a question from John Gaffney or comment.
More just a comment. What I would find really, really helpful for this would be more of a template kind of thing that we could fill in so that we're all doing the same assessment. We're all looking for the same things. I mean, it should be pretty standard. I'm sure a lot of the companies that we hire to do these kind of assessments have stuff like that, but like a database where we could go out and maybe take a tablet or something and fill in the information on the fly. Anything of that nature would just be excellent. Also, for me, always the hardest is it's very easy to look and say, does it have a 5x8 pad? What are the amenities? Does it connect to a sidewalk? But when we're really talking path of travel, what are we looking to see as far as that path of travel? How far from the bus stop are we analyzing to ensure that people aren't dropped off in basically an island? So that kind of stuff would be really helpful if we could work with MTC as we work to do this work everywhere. We've done a couple of bus stops. The district serves probably 900 of them, and we own about 9. So yeah, I'm all for the project, would love to help. I just think it would be the more tools we can have, the easier it'll be, the more we can sell this to those that will have to sell it to.
And I think this is a great thing to bring to your executives at your agencies to get a formal comment letter on it. Because I know my bosses are excited about doing it. We just need sort of the resources to do it.
You want us to rally the BayPAC, let me know.
I want GM letters is what I want.
I mean, rally the BayPAC to go to our GM.
Yeah.
I know you don't want a letter from me.
No, I know.
Petaluma, we're smaller. Everybody knows small city. So we have begun inventory. They already did it in a GIS, so we have flat long and some of the amenities, but I agree with John's comment, knowing, we're setting out an intern now, but knowing some of those levels would be helpful just so it's not a redundancy later. We've already done something. But yes, I think rallying the GMs is definitely a great idea. I have one last question. I'm sorry. This is about one of your other recommendations for Medi-Cal transportation and billing. I know that ECCTA is doing that currently, and it's a very laborious process, though the the fruits of the labor, I don't know how else to say it, could work out pretty well. Are there any other agencies in the Bay Area doing that?
Nope.
Really? Okay.
Nope. Every time we've tried to start a program, the rules have changed. And so we've had to go back to the start. And that's why the legislation is so important in simplifying the process by which you can get the reimbursement. Once that happens, I think it would be fairly easy for MTC to help all of the agencies set up their own programs.
I think that's a phenomenal addition. Again, because of my experience there, I know it was laborious and did change often, and but the funding sources were great for that in terms of the reimbursement. So I think this is a great path, you know, for agencies to follow, especially if MTC can help streamline that experience. So very similar to paratransit eligibility or RED, we have something very similar in that same vein. To be able to log the miles, et cetera. I don't think it seems like a big reach, but I think definitely worth the attention. So let us know if there's something additional you need on that when you get to that point for sure. Any other comments or questions? Drew, do we have somebody online?
I just want to acknowledge, in case there's members of the public who would like to comment on this, if you want to raise your hand, or you're welcome to unmute, but I currently do not see any hands raised. But I wanted to offer that to those who are on the screen.
My thunder was stolen by everybody else's great questions. So.
All right. Well, seeing none, I think we all have a lot more information and some action items, including dusting off our ADA transition plan. And sending some endorsements to the commission to help with some funding sources. So we appreciate, Jen, and I know everyone appreciates your time and effort in rallying us and getting us on the same page so that there's more accessibility for all in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Then with that, we will move on to item number 5. This is a discussion around recruitment for transit agencies, for the TPCC, I should say, to add more members. This is something we've discussed, we've kind of touched on. We've had some ideas about creating a flyer, about where to potentially do some outreach. We've talked about, just to recap a little bit, making sure that there's some action and some meat to the meetings so that people feel their participation is effective when they come to these meetings. So I know that we have Ross. I don't know if we want to go straight to that, but we can talk, we can open up for discussion about how we might do some recruitment. But I know you mentioned Ross from SCTA was on, that might be able to help with some of the marketing components.
Yeah, we could coordinate with him and just get some feedback on flyers, social media campaign that we could try to do and recruit some more members. Post it on our website.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, just trying to think how to kind of leverage it. I'm not sure if it's something we should put the word out through our other committees as well in case they know someone, but yeah, certainly newsletters. Our social media doesn't have a massive reach, but I know a lot of times the county puts the word out and has some lists, so I could certainly communicate the need to the county and hopefully get some applicants.
We can also drop off flyers at key places where we might recruit some people, like retirement homes, assisted living, etc.
Ross, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you be able to draft a flyer of some kind? I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I was going to suggest. I can work with staff, or we can get it.
Great, that would be great. I think one of the other things I just want to make sure is on the flyer. We talked about making sure it's clear we would get them transportation here because that's a limiting factor. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we talked about it that agencies would be willing to coordinate those trips depending. Okay, so. I think including that in the flyer, of course, if we got the flyer, we could look at it. Maybe we don't have to wait necessarily for the next meeting. I would hope not to wait 2 months to approve the letter, but possibly some way to maybe communicate it out to get feedback for you. And then if we all have the same flyer, we could post it out maybe to our paratransit writers on our website, social media. I know I definitely get interest occasionally, but it's one of those like, oh, let me get your name and number and then, yeah, it would be nice to be able to point folks who are interested a little easily to ways to join this committee and board.
That's good. Well, I'll put something together and share it with the group for approval.
Great, wonderful. Any other comments or suggestions, either on the flyer or other places we might publicize it?
May I speak?
Yes, I didn't know.
Yes. Well,
yes, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry, I'll get in. I'm connected with the regional center and also other organizations that serve people with IDD. I could be happy to spread the word for you guys. We also have an email list that we send out to for our stakeholders and constituents. So, and we can also help out with if you guys need helping with printing stuff or getting that out as well. We always offer that for our stakeholders and our community partners.
Great, wonderful, Tobias. Thank you.
Could you provide your contact in the chat, please? In the chat.
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, perfect. You can touch base.
That would be great.
Yeah, I think Tobias answered my question. I was just going to check to see if anybody had email lists that they could send these things to, CTA or any other agencies that we could send it to and just get the word out that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we have in the past reached out to agencies that have formally sent representatives to this committee. And I think that we can do that again, right? There's tends to be turnover and, changing priorities for some of those organizations. But I think that continuing to reach out to those is useful still.
I think offering transportation is really key to getting more members. And if that is actually something that is going to be offered, I would love to have a little bit more information about that too, so they could be assured, about transportation.
I feel like that would be, as long as we're in our service areas, that would be the only limiting factor. But if, and that's something we could easily check and address, but I feel confident that we could all, right?
Were we going to offer them free transportation? Is that right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Kind of the same way we used to do for if we were doing like an in-person assessment. I would just kind of follow that same process.
Yeah.
And I think that should be doable. So if we need to go back to check with our respective agencies, we can do that when we get the draft and get confirmation.
I'm making an executive decision.
I am too. Petaluma Transit will take you here.
Sorry, I missed it. Can you repeat what we're offering free rides for?
To get here.
Oh yeah, we already do that.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh, Yuri's like, watch out. I already do it. Awesome. Good job, City Bus.
Also, to increase engagement, I would be very curious to see if we can have transit agencies bring their plans whenever they have a big project that they're building, and we can provide input on the accessibility of them. That would provide a lot of engagement.
No, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that was something also that's brought up, right? Just in general, bringing more things here that we may, and I'm at fault of that as well. Like we're moving so quickly sometimes in doing things at transit agencies. We say, oh, we just keep going, but to be able to bring it here and get the eyes of and ears and the input of the folks on this committee would be useful. But I think it is a fairly newish habit in terms of what level, but maybe start off as much as possible. And then we can always pull back if things don't seem applicable.
And then also remind people, if it's not already obvious, that it's more than just a paratransit committee. It's about fixed route transit as well. And so we may pull more people in that are bus riders or both paratransit and bus riders.
Yeah, that's a great point. So maybe making sure the flyer is reflective of that. That'd be great. Yay.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, Yuri.
On the paratransit side, I don't know if there's funding or the flyers are a good idea, but on paratransit we have addresses for everybody who's registered. So if we wanted to do a mailing, we could do a mailing to because we have the addresses. And then I think on the fixed route, the flyers would be much more of a tool because we don't know the individuals that are necessarily being served until they're riding the bus.
We were going to update the paratransit riders guide, right? So there is an opportunity to put something in the writer's guide that pops out and gets somebody's attention that says, hey, look, there's this committee you can be involved in making decisions or recommendations on how this all works.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
And perhaps bringing some sort of draft of that writer's guide to this committee as well.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's where you're going with it, Stephen. Good idea. And it is in our writer's guide. The TPCC is in there for an engagement.
Yeah, ours is as well, but I think with red, we could easily pull everybody at least. I mean, we'd probably get a lot of return, but if there was something behind it, maybe Tobias or some entity could put together a mailing if we have the addresses, you know. So at least the paratransit side. But yeah, to your point, fixed route, we'd have to probably put messaging on the bus, but that's also totally within.
Yes, yeah.
It's pretty easy enough to do.
On the inside.
Right.
Stuff, yeah.
11
by 17 version of the flyer.
So Ross, we're adding to your list. We would also like 11 by 17. Did you already get that? A version of the flyer so we could install it in the interior of the buses. Okay, that'd be great.
I'll probably, yeah, I will probably check back internally to get a list of all the requirements, but we can get something together soon, definitely.
And I would recommend doing it English on one side and Spanish on the other, so it's accessible.
Yeah, that'll be.
And I'll just add to that comment for the English Spanish. Our preference at the city is to make sure that they're both on one side. So the flyer is, you know, you're not having to look at two different locations or two separate flyers. It's all on one document. Our public information staff has recommended that that's the most accessible way to make sure that there's not a language preference being demonstrated.
I have a question in regards to this because I think what can happen to me is when I have people who are interested, it's oftentimes hard to field their questions. What's the best point of contact if people have questions about this role or being a member? Would it be Steph? Okay, awesome. I don't want to assume at all, but I think it would be helpful also if it was the one point of contact information so that you're able to kind of quickly go through what the role is and what we cover. That would be wonderful. And possibly a QR code linking to if the website has something for application.
Yeah, there's actually already something on the website,
right.
a simple application form. So
yeah, so if the QR links to that, then they'll know exactly how to sign up. Great. Awesome. Any other comments, suggestions, or things we can add to Ross's list? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, go ahead, Marvin.
Well, we're already using it already. We have it in an introduction for the Paratransit itself. When you call and they put you on hold forever, then you listen to the whole message over and over. If you want to be participating in those meetings, provide the dispatcher or the scheduler with your phone or with your email so they can get you the schedule for all the meetings. I mean, it's already scripted and they listen to it every day. I don't know, because it's just a little bit too long too, because they skip it immediately. They don't want to hear it. But it's there. It's like they repeated it for them every day. Okay. It's one of the things that they listen to every day.
Thanks, Mohammed, for being in the room. Number one, number two, bringing up that point. Yeah, I like Mohammed said, it's when people call for paratransit, that's one of the first things that's offered on the phone. I would recommend that for the other agencies in the room, and that just to talk about the TPCC. And yes, does get a little long, but but everybody, it's just another touch point that everybody who's calling regarding paratransit, they have to call to schedule an appointment. So at some point they're going to hear that message and be aware that there's an opportunity for them to be a part of a larger regional kind of policy discussion.
All right, great ideas. Any other comments or suggestions? Oh, wonderful. Well, hopefully we can make progress on this between now and our next meeting so we can begin that recruitment moving forward. All right. Next, that brings us to roundtable updates and discussions from transit and paratransit operators is how we'll start. Stephen, are you okay to go first for transit operators?
Sure. Sonoma County Transit is up 20% over the same time, the month of May, over last year. So that's good news. We keep trending up, and I don't have any data for paratransit specifically, but I do know we're also up similarly on the paratransit side. Most recently, we got 6 new Starcraft cutaways that are going to be replacing some of the older vehicles in our fleet. So that's good news for everybody. We are working on getting new Phoenix EV buses, which used to be Proterra. Those are going to be delivered, we think, by July of 25, so summer 25. And then, so there'll be about 5 of those. We're ordering 5 of those. And another 6 or 7 Gillig buses, which would then be delivered in the summer of 26. So those would be our first 40-foot fleet of buses. So overall, we're going to get about 12 of those. Our charging station in our bus yard continues to move forward. It should be buttoned up by fall. And then we're just kind of waiting for our buses. Although we're still waiting for our is it a switchboard? Switchgear, yeah, that's a little bit further out. But so that makes us feel better about the delay with our Phoenix EV buses, because if they were going to be here in December, we wouldn't be ready. Yeah. So anyways, we've got a lot going on at Sonoma County Transit, and that's my update in a nutshell. Thanks.
We go to City Bus for an update.
Thank you. So our big news is that Sonoma County is aware of is that we need to redo the roadbed in the transit mall. So starting on September 3rd, the transit mall will be closed down and a temporary transit mall will be set up on First Street. So we're working hard to prepare for that. And then it should be about 2 months, so September, October, and then by 1st of November, we should be back in the transit into our typical transit mall. So that's one item. We're signing the contract for and council approved our contract for paratransit services with MV Transportation again for 3 years. So we're excited to continue to work with Mohammed and his team to provide high quality paratransit services for folks in Santa Rosa and beyond, and connect to the other agencies. And that includes the contract includes our service to Oakmont and other deviated fixed route services. We are getting a new vehicle in for a couple new vehicles, like 20 passenger vehicles for Oakmont and for one of our fixed route buses for fixed routes. Those should be coming in August. And we are on, well, I'll just leave it at that. And then we've put in an application for a new PG&E EV charging facility with some of our federal funds that we got for EV charging and new buses. So the goal is to have an additional EV charging stations in place by end of 2026 to add to the current 5 chargers that we have. Yeah, I think that's about it. Our ridership for let's see, ridership in May, which is the numbers I have, was up 11% over last year. We continue to have, we have almost 47,000 youth rides in May. So those are free youth trips. And between all of our free ride programs and transfers, over 50% of our trips end up being free trips. I think that's the extent of my update.
Right. John.
Unless before I hand off the mic to the next agency, Mohammed, do you have anything to add?
No, the only thing is the evaluation that we.
Oh, thank you.
Start in July 1st. Very exciting. Thank you for the training. We got pretty good training from Miriam. It's very interesting, actually. Very interesting program. The reason for that, because we're doing the paratransit for a long time. We know all the clients, and it makes us like, I don't know, we know them already. So that means there's nothing we can ask them more than we already know. Unless it's like completely different story, then we can start. The new applications is very exciting too, because every single person is different and every disability is completely different. And then when you look at them all together like that, it's like, wow, there's a lot of information to come. We're excited to continue with it, and we're gonna update that every day.
I'm sorry, so are you doing evaluations now too? Oh,
they're doing the applications, which, as you know, Stephen, potentially could, if determined, include an evaluation.
Okay, so it's just eligibility.
Correct.
Got it.
Great. Wonderful. John. Golden Gate.
Not a lot to report. We're still at about 55% on ferry and bus of pre-pandemic numbers. Bridge numbers still remaining at about 85% of pre-pandemic. And like I've said before, we're seeing quite a shift in travel patterns, less commuters, more weekend travelers. So that's pretty much what we have going on. I think the paratransit is about 60% of the pre-pandemic numbers. And we're talking about vehicle replacements for the district-owned paratransit vehicles, but we won't be purchasing those till middle of next year. So not anything pressing. That's all I have.
Great. I'll do Petaluma Transit. Let's see, we very excited, in case you haven't heard, which you hopefully everyone's heard, we're offering fare-free service now starting July 1st across the board. No application, no card, no barriers. This will include paratransit service, which is the unique, I would say, component of it. So we're anticipating seeing a large uptick in paratransit ridership and applications. The marketing collateral is still going out, but the press release was released on July 1st. And I think we had about maybe 9 news agencies pick up the story. So it was exciting to get a lot of publicity because we want as many people to know about it as possible. One of the rubs I will say with other transit agencies, or not with other transit agencies, but passengers, is that we don't offer transfers anymore because we're not charging for the service. So that's probably been the only confusion when people get on the bus. They want their transfer to get on their 44. And we're like, nope, because we don't charge. Other than that, it's been pretty seamless. I think people still haven't fully registered that it's free because they think it's just one of the many free initiatives we've done. But so far, we can't give ridership numbers right now, but I will say it's definitely it's increasing quickly. So we hope to have ridership numbers for the month at the end of July. Let's see, we're also on track for our microtransit launch. I'll be having the last meeting of our ad hoc committee at the end of this month. So we've completed the branding, the naming. We're almost have completed the app, the zone. And so that will launch at the end of August. The microtransit is an on-demand service. It'll only operate within 2-mile zone in downtown Petaluma, meant to be first last mile to SMART, as well as Copeland. And then, of course, just hoping to lighten the traffic congestion in downtown. This is definitely a demonstration or pilot project, meaning we're going to wait and see what we see, who actually wants to give it a go. So we're really hopeful that lots of people will try it, and we'll see who it works for. We are hiring for a senior transit planner, specifically to do grants work. So if you're interested, please check the City of Petaluma out. We are expecting 4 New Flyer electric buses, 2 40-foot, 2 35-foot in the new year. So that's exciting. And I don't have any ridership, as I said, as of now. I think that's the only updates we have. So now on to mobility partner reports.
Yeah, so like I said, we are completing our local aging and disability action plan. So we completed 5 focus groups with equity priority populations, and we'll have lots of recommendations on transportation. Similarly, our master plan for aging is due out in October, and that too will have recommendations and a transportation work group that will be stood up to work on those recommendations. And other than that, we're still waiting to hear from Caltrans. We're expecting to be funded through the 5310, but it's on Caltrans time, which could be October, could be December. No idea when that contract would come. That's it. Great.
I have a question, Kathleen. So that 5310 funding, is that a scope of work that you could share with this group, that we could, or maybe if there's, you know, time at a future meeting, maybe have a discussion about it. It would be of interest to.
I can just tell you briefly, we submitted 2 grants, one for operating assistance, which would provide funds for vouchers. So we would give those to CBOs, nonprofits that serve older adults and people with disabilities. If they needed to get their people, like Earl Baum, for example, or Cloverdale Senior Center, they could get a pot of money to provide vouchers on a Lyft, a taxi, Wheelcare Express, those type of things. So depending on how much the grant is funded, you know, we would plan that program around. It also could provide mileage reimbursement. So if friends, families, and neighbors drive their older adults to appointments, they could actually submit for reimbursement if our CBO partners wanted to operate that program. It's pretty intensive as far as admin. You need receipts and tracking and that kind of thing, but it is an option. And an alternate option is to actually pay family members, reimburse family members and friends for the transportation that they provide. The other grant is the mobility management, and that would be to fund, I see in Drennan's coordinated plan, she highlighted the ADRC for information and referral. It's Aging and Disability Resource Connection. Through that program, we would fund a social worker bilingual that would focus just on transportation. So that social worker would field transportation calls to the 565 info line, and try to troubleshoot and connect them to resources for transportation, and highlight and document all the gaps, geographical gaps, mobility gaps, spatial gaps, those type of things. So they would be recording the calls where there's no solution to the caller.
And how long is that funded for? Is that a couple of years?
5310 grant, it's a 2-year grant, but Caltrans only funds 1 year at a time.
Okay.
So again, you're always waiting and not knowing whether you'll be funded for the 2nd year.
But the mobility management project this is the first time you've done that.
Yeah, I mean, we have Sonoma Access, which is our kind of online one-stop computer program, and that can be enhanced as well through this mobility management. Yeah, we've always had the 565 info line, or at least we've had it for several years, and we do track transportation information and calls. When people call about transportation, we count those calls, but we've never tracked the gaps or the reasons why there's no solution to the caller.
Okay.
Thanks.
Should I get everyone's update? Is there anyone, Drew, that I should have gotten an update on that's online?
I believe so.
Okay.
Right. John.
Yes. Any other mobility partner reports? Okay. All right. Then our future agenda topics. So this would be an opportunity to discuss. I'll list a few that we have right now. State for future topics, state master plan for aging, Petaluma age-friendly action plan, education campaign on fares. And then I think mobility manager is making the list as possibly having more of a discussion around. I will say I did talk to Petaluma, the age-friendly. They're happy to come talk to us at any time. So whenever that makes sense for the group. But are there any other topics that anyone here in the room or on Zoom wants to see brought that might be beneficial?
Could we possibly see temporary transit mall plans?
So Yuri, that was a question for you. Maybe to do transit mall plans.
I could share one now, but I think by the time, when's the next meeting you said?
2 months.
September 17th.
September 17th.
Yeah, so we'll already be in the transit mall at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, if you guys want, what's up?
Maybe another time.
But okay.
Now, I'd love to see a quick look.
Sure. Yeah. This actually is just is now a good time, Maria?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay. This is this is like fresh off the presses, not 100%, and it's probably more information that you want than you want to know. But and Stephen, this is a great time for you to add any 2 cents you might have. So this is very raw. This is Adam making assumptions about where the county wants to be, and John for where Golden. I think we know where Golden Gate wants to be, but feel free to make any comments. Here, let me see. I'm gonna try to share. I guess can somebody?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Allow me to share.
It's coming.
I'm all excited
Maria,
too.
who's behind the Petaluma age-friendly action plan?
It's 2 communities.
Thank you.
Who did? City.
So can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of little markers. So the transit mall, if you can see my cursor, is over here on 2nd Street. And so then this is, 1 block away on 1st Street in front of City Hall. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically we have a lot of benches and the yellow and orange round dots are benches. Some of them are existing, some of them are new, we'll install. The blue bars are shelters. The pink arrows are kind of the slip locations where the buses will be pulling up, but essentially they'll be within 1st Street will all be city bus except for, and then here at the corner of 1st and Santa Rosa Avenue will be where the county is. So and Golden Gate will be here on Santa Rosa Avenue, as well as Mendocino Transit Authority's vehicle that serves the transit mall. Yeah, this essentially the layout of the city bus configuration where the buses pull up will be the same as it was in the transit mall, just to try to keep things simple for the passengers. I know, I think it was 12, so there'll be a restroom facility here with AD access into the restrooms as well. The green triangles are trash cans. Sorry, 12 years ago when we did this, I think there was the general consensus that people enjoyed this location. It was a little bit more open with a little bit more green space than the current transit mall. So hopefully that will be the case again this time. There'll be these little kind of lightning bolts are camera equipment at our transit mall. We have cameras throughout the transit mall to just for safety and security reasons. So we'll have those camera equipment out at the transit mall as well. and then the kiosk, that's been a difficulty, but so the only place that we can have it, because we need Clipper card connectivity, is inside at this building on the corner of Santa Rosa Avenue and First Street. So it'll be a little bit of a distance to walk to add value to your Clipper card if you don't have it already downloaded onto your phone. And then there'll be TSRs throughout the transit mall. During normal hours. That's that we currently have TSRs. Any comments or questions?
Is there any limited access, like things that typically would be accessible, or is it all pretty much, it's just being moved? Like
it's just being
no reduction in service. I mean, like
no reduction in service.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
I like this. We don't have future agenda topics. We do it all now. What else? No. So we have September, November, right, and then the next one will be September, November, and January, I think, are the next 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So maybe having age-friendly November is a possibility. It would be good to bring the writer. I do think the writer guide would be great to bring here. I know that I've struggled with ways to explaining the window or the negotiation. These are all terms that we love to use in transit, but aren't used anywhere else. So I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for folks to kind of weigh in on maybe a different way to explain some things that we've gotten into transit speak. Yeah. So that's a possibility as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And any other?
Maria and Stephen, have you seen our rider guide and how our drawing of the window?
Yeah,
I've seen it online. You've got it online, right?
I'd be curious to see if that works for people as well. So
yeah,
great.
I'm sure.
We really like that, Yuri.
It's good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, it's good.
Thumbs up from John.
Take it. Anybody can take it and copy it.
Cool. That was my next question.
You weren't going to ask it, but I knew what you were thinking, John.
Are there any other suggestions for future agenda topics?
I have one. I just came from a conference called US Aging in Florida, and there was a lot of focus on transit for older adults. And there's a lot of work being done, pretty innovative work. And I was sitting with someone from Napa Solano County, and I think I've mentioned this before, but apparently paratransit buses have to be retired, I think after 7 years, and can no longer be used. I don't know if that's correct.
I think that's the estimated useful life.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't necessarily have to be retired at that.
So anyway, they use their retired paratransit buses, and they allow CBOs and nonprofits who need an ADA vehicle to get their people places. And so it's just a thought of ways that we can service our older adults and our isolated people to get them out. So anyway, I just thought it would be a good idea, since many other counties are doing it, the transit agencies and the SCTAs types in the county. What they do is they maintain the vehicles, they pay for the insurance, the nonprofit provides the driver and the gas. And so, for example, like Council on Aging, if they needed to get their people to adult daycare or Alzheimer's daycare where you couldn't have that liability, they could use a paratransit bus to get their people to and from. So those type of things. Anyway, a lot of people are doing it all over the country, and it would be great to see that and at least piloted in Sonoma County.
Do you know anybody who might be willing to come talk to us about the model?
Yeah, other people that have done it in Solano.
I found out somebody from Napa. I know I got contacted by one of their consultants about one of our projects, but yeah, I could definitely find out somebody.
Yeah. Great idea. All right. So yeah, continue to think about different things we can bring to this committee that would be beneficial for all. But I think we have a fairly good list to start. Okay, wonderful. Any other business announcements? I did put fare free flyers out there, but if anybody is interested, but any other announcements before we adjourn? Okay, then with that, we are adjourned. That's it. I really like hitting the gavel. We have a good long